I want to introduce a special guest of mine, a good friend of mine as well, Rick Jones. And he's got something special for us that he dropped off and he decided to come by the lab. Why don't you tell the people what's going on and what you've been up to?
What I've been up to since the last time, Mac, is we finally dropped the book. Came out January 19th. Sold out before it even hit the stand. So we got everything, got to restock. It's back at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million, Walmart, etc. I thank you for reading it. I told you you have to read it before I come back on, and you blessed me to do that. So we're here to discuss it. I want to really hear what your takeaway was and what you thought about the book.
Right. Well, my takeaway and what I thought about the book. First, let me start with what I thought about the book. I think it was a great read, not just because you're my buddy, but because for people who want to read this book and who will read this book, it's a tearjerker. There's a lot of emotional episodes in this book, and I'm pretty sure that someone can walk away with something out of this book. What stood out, there's a few things that stood out to me, and to keep it totally organic, the first thing that pops to my mind right now is the issue that you have with Caesar. Not going to give away what happened with Caesar, but could you give us a little time frame, a little emotion, a little bit of what was going on around that time with Caesar?
I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people, that chapter has really touched a lot of people. It deals with my German Shepherd. It's titled Man's Best Friend. And we all know that animals are, people's best friend. They're just like family. But when it comes to dogs and a man, it just has a special place. So that chapter is Man's Best Friend. I went out to Blythe, California, and I had to relocate from my ranch. And therefore, I had to move my family and move my animals as well. And unfortunately, during that time of being out in Blythe, California, my dog, we think he got bit by a rattlesnake and he passed away. It's a very, very touching and emotional chapter. When I think about it, I mean, when you lose someone, a loved one, and even a pet, because some people's pets are their children.
Yeah.
And Caesar was my boy, man, as you read in the book, and I miss him. And I know you kind of upset about the things that I could have maybe done to, get him some attention. But, my mind was spinning around. I had so much going on, and I just trusted and believed that he was going to be okay.
And, initially when we discussed what I have read about, what I interpreted from that particular chapter, I walked away feeling that anger that you said, yes, of course. And when I spoke to you and you mentioned that financially you were unable to do certain things, and I reflect on what you were going through at that time in Blythe, and I kind of understood from your perspective that financially you were not able to save your buddy, and that's a key thing in this conversation because that was a compelling force in your life at some point in time because you're also a stockbroker, right? A daytime trader.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like to explain that to the people too?
Well, I actually had to get back into the workforce due to having lost millions of dollars in the stock market in 2008. Actually, I know the date. I'll never forget it. September 29, 2008. They call it Black Monday. And so I had to pursue a career that could sustain, me and my family. I own a 40-acre ranch, and that was a devastating blow.
Right.
It was a devastating blow, and I got into the corrections department. I had previously turned down that job 3 times, and
Right.
God opened the door, and I got in, and I started working for the corrections department in 2010. But it was rough, man, getting to that part. I was homeless, as I talk about in the book. I went through a lot of trials and tribulations, and that's what this book is about, to encourage people to don't give up, keep the faith.
Right. Right. Well, excuse me. Let's backtrack a little bit. You also mentioned that you were a corrections officer, right? But
Correct.
there was a long road to get to that point, and which I think we're kind of glazing right over it because I mentioned Caesar, and that's like later on in the book actually.
Yes.
But if we were to go back and we were to chronologically decipher what it was that was going on in your life at that particular time that encouraged you to become a corrections officer first, and secondly, the trials and tribulations that you had to go through to become a corrections officer.
Wow, that's a book in itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I wrote the book. God's
Right.
Road to Man's
Oh, so you're telling the people to read the book?
Man, read the book. I'm gonna
Okay.
talk about it though.
Okay.
It was just we've all been through trials and tribulations. Everybody has a story. You and I talked about it. There's nobody who doesn't have a story.
Right.
This is just my story. God's Road to Manson to me. There was like I mentioned I was homeless. I was sleeping in my car for 9 months. Prior to having my application go through, there's a time period, you know, when you're looking for jobs. And even though I had done it three previous times, I was able to get my application in. But even the 9, 10 months that it took for me to get into the corrections department is quick. So I was blessed. But during that time, I was working 5.5 hours away. Slept in my car. Would come home on my days off. It was rough. It was trying on my health, on my psyche, on my marriage. I left my wife at home. She suffered from sickle cell disease, so she was at our ranch, and I'm holding it down. And I remember I would come home every Friday, you know, whatever my Friday happened to fall on, and my wife would pack groceries in my car, and I would head back down to Long Beach, California, man, and do what I had to do as a man. And during that time, it was so special because it was probably the most important time of my life. Me and my father, who I served, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's when we really got so close together, and he showed me things. He gave me faith. He let me know that he would never leave me nor forsake me, and I cherished that time. It was a dark time, but it was a beautiful time. And as I talk about, as you know, in the book, there's a Bible verse called Luke 1:37, which was shown to me on the bottom left-hand corner of a semi-parked truck when I was driving just to get some shade on me from the hot summer, so I could just, you know, lay my seat back and take a little nap before I started my shift again. And that verse is Luke 1:37, for nothing shall be impossible with God.
Nice. You know, you sprinkled a whole lot of pepper in there before Luke 137.
Yes.
Okay. Because there was a road to Luke 137.
Absolutely.
While working at Boeing, you know, I just want to share this, if you don't mind.
Please do.
It's out of your book, and you spoke about going to work and having to, you know, carry your undergarments into the job, take a shower, you know, and freshen up and get ready for an 8-hour to 10 to 12-hour shift. And I don't think people really know the significance of that, what that really means. Could you just get into a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, no problem, Mac. What he's talking about is the time that I was homeless, and I had a wash up, and I had to, you know, take care of my hygiene. And ironically, this is how amazing God is. My name is Rick Jones, you guys. I parked in a parking lot called Jones Medical Center. I would back my car up into the corner every night, and I would sleep. I would, you know, read my Bible. I would eat, and you know, that was my home for 9 months. And every morning I would get up and make that walk into the building and go up to the 5th floor, I believe. And I had what I called my own private bathroom.
Right.
And I would bird bath and clean myself up, and that was my life, you know, for 9 months.
Right. And to add on, so people have a little bit more clarity about the situation, is that you lived 5 hours away.
5.5 hours away, that's correct.
And you had just purchased some property, if I'm correct?
That's correct.
And like you said, you have a wife that suffers from sickle cell anemia.
Correct.
And she needed you up there.
Absolutely.
But you had to pay the bill.
Had to pay the bills. Where I lived at, you know, is a remote location, right, and the money would not have been able to sustain my lifestyle at that time.
Right. Okay. You know what? I'll let the people read the book because it's very interesting. You know, that whole story leading up to where you are today. And people don't know where you are today, but let's go to, you know, the ending of your book. Okay? Because, like we said, why don't you reintroduce the title and tell us how you got to that point in place in your book where you met that individual that you talked about.
Okay, absolutely. Once again, the name of the book is God's Road to Manson and Me, and I'm the author, Rick Jones, as you know. How I got to that place was just by the grace of God. God gave me the title God's Road to Manson and Me. And when you think about that, you know, we all have a road. This is just my road. And it led to me meeting, you know, being employed by the correctional department, having to endure Blythe, California for, I think I was out there like maybe 4 or 5 years. Temperatures were 115 to 125 degrees in the summer. And as I mentioned, my wife suffers from sickle cell disease, and a trigger for that is high heat elevation. So we dealt with a lot. By the grace of God, I was finally, after you know, numerous times, able to transfer closer to home, which was Corcoran State Prison, and that's where the story started. You know, from being homeless and everything. But when we get to Corcoran State Prison, that's where I meet Charles Manson. And God had given me a revelation on my drive home. I talk about it in the book. I don't want to give too much away because it's just a story that is just, it's unbelievable, but it's true and it's believable. And you just have to read it for yourself. But I got a revelation on my way home, and the Holy Spirit told me that I would be meeting Charles Manson. And everything that was told to me, it happened in a progressive manner. And it's just amazing. I really sometimes I think about it in my life, and God is so real, and it was just amazing, and that's why I'm talking about. That's why I wrote this book, so that people can see, no matter what you're going through, that there's a plan for your life.
Okay. For the sake of not giving away too much of what you don't want to give away in the book, I just want to say that it had an interesting twist to it, the book. Particularly when you met Charles Manson. For those who don't know, responsible for the death of, I believe, 5 people, Miss Tatum and other people, and he coined the term, I believe, helter skelter, and it made reference to mass chaos and stuff like that. And he was eventually caught along with his cohorts and placed in prison for the rest of his life, I believe. And Rick here happened to have had the opportunity to meet him. And in the book, it was quite shocking to find that someone can find their maker when they're getting close to heaven or hell's doors, depending on how you live your life. And I'm going to leave it just like that because it gets deep like that to me. And you're a spiritual person, so it comes from a spiritual vein. So people just keep that in mind and stay tuned for some more information about the book, or actually get in contact with him personally. Congratulate him for his accomplishment. And, I'm pretty sure that, comments and, a little constructive criticism will be greatly appreciated.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. My website is www.rickjones137.com. www.rickjones137.com. That's the main God's Road to Manson webpage. I have a publicist. It's publicist Sharon Day at I think it's on the website. All my contacts are on the website.
Okay.
So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else for the people?
Other than this is a book like none other. I take no credit for it. Like I talk to people all the time. This was inspired by the Holy Spirit, and it's a book that will touch everybody in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's the chapter of man's best friend, or it's just a book filled with encouragement. And it's my testimony, and God is no respecter of persons. I say that all the time. So what He did for me, He'll do for each and every one of you who hears my words right now. And just get the book, and you'll be blessed by it. Be blessed by it.
Why should I get the book?
Because it's a great book. You'll never find a book like this. This book talks about a situation that would never be discussed. When you talk about Charles Manson, we talk about the negative. We talk about helter skelter. We talk about his crimes. This book has nothing to do with this. This book is about a relationship between a correctional officer, myself, and a convicted mass murderer, Charles Willis Manson. If you look at the history of murders, he's at the top. He's number one. So a lot of young people might not know too much about him, but there's been tons of books written about him, tons of movies done. Not one is God's Road to Mastery.
Nice. All right.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to say in closing that I really appreciate you for your accomplishments. Not just the book, but you as an individual, your personal accomplishments. I salute you because you're a black man too. So,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good to see another brother do well. And I'm just gonna flaunt your business a little bit. He's a millionaire, people.
We're all millionaires. We're all millionaires.
You're liquid assets millionaire. Okay, people. So take clue. We're going to be doing some more things with Rick Jones, especially dealing with stocks and bonds and things of that nature, and how to grow income. So stay tuned for the next episode and segment. And in closing, I want to say peace. We're out.